The Armoury has a tagline. It's called International Classic Artisanal Clothiers. And it pretty neatly summarizes what we do. So we're very interested in classic menswear, so like suits, jackets, shirts, ties. But we're interested in how that came about in different countries, because actually a lot of people have a very Italian or English-centric view of how classic menswear should be, when actually there's been a lot of great suppliers of this sort of product around the world. My name is Mark Cho. I'm one of the co-founders of The Armoury, which is a classic men's store in Hong Kong and New York. You know, what we do is we try to build a relationship and we try to operate with a gentleman over a long period of time, because it takes a long time for someone to really find their style. And it really needs to be very reflective of that person. I think that the minute you start dressing in order to pretend to be something else is when you've kind of lost your way in the pursuit of style. And that was an important part of our mission, was to try and get guys to see past brands and really just like appreciate product for what it is. You know, product that's handmade, product that has a little bit of like the impression of handmade, so a little bit imperfect in some ways, but better for it. And also, you know, not to chase trends, but to try and build a wardrobe, build something that's really classic and long lasting. For me, having a watch on your wrist it completes an outfit to a certain extent. Having like just the right watch for what you're wearing is exactly the same as having just the right necktie or just the right pair of shoes. I own far too many watches. I have a little bit of a hoarder's mentality, so it got a little bit overboard. There was one point in my life where I felt like I had to complete sets. I was trying to be quite completist about having what I thought were the significant models of Grand Seiko in their earliest days. So between like the 60s to the 70s, there were 5 pieces that I thought were really important, and I tried to get all of those, and then also the corresponding reissues. You know, I think like with all collectors, you get kind of excited about the chase. But what's interesting is that as I started to sell more of my watches, I became much more comfortable with chopping and changing what I had. So when I travel, I try to bring watches that will work with the clothing that I'll be wearing during that period. I will have one dress watch, I will have one sport watch, and then I will have something that kind of sits in between. These days, probably one of the smaller, older PATEK dress watches, just time only, like an old Calatrava. And then something like the Speedmaster, or like an old Submariner, like a Snowflake, something like that. And then for the in-between, I love things like 2 reg chronographs in smaller sizes, like older ones. So I usually travel with one of those as well. Under $5,000 for new watches, obviously Nomos, that's a great place to start. Plus they do them in the smaller sizes. The Orion is great. The Tangente, just the simplest one, the manual one, that one's great. The Metro is great. My favorite though actually is the Ahoy, because they make that in a smaller size too. Like the 36mm Ahoy is a really nice kind of in-between watch, kind of between sport and dress. You know, one of the things about starting the Armoury for me is like I started this because I really, really love tailored clothing. And I understand that it can be difficult to wear this sort of clothing. It has definitely very much like an air of formality around it. And so that makes it kind of inaccessible. We don't want this to be inaccessible. We don't want this to be like, I can only pull this out once a year, right? We want people to love tailored clothing as much as we do and feel comfortable wearing it even on the weekends if they wanted to.